Hey coaches, welcome back. This is Coach Parker with CoachParker.org and Coaching Youth Football Tips to Talk podcast. How are you guys doing today? Hey, I came across a tweet on Twitter this past week with another coach talking about, I think it was Coach Gus Smith talking about he had some folks on his staff or heard other coaches that they don't like to do whiteboards and chalk talk during the off season to find out their issues. And it really bothered him. And I said, hey, yeah, I agree, because I've come across coaches that say, I don't read books and I don't do research. And I've already know enough about football in my life that I don't need to really do any other things to get better. I've got enough. And I always thought that was weird that somebody would say that they've already got enough football that they're good. I'm not sure Bill Belichick or other coaches would, or Nick Saban would agree with that they already know enough and they're not going to study anymore. So I find it interesting that people don't read books. Is that a Cro-Magnon thing and Neanderthal? I'm not sure, but I know from my perspective that I've gotten better definitely by writing about football and researching and doing everything I can to continuously get better. And there's so much out there now as far as resources to become a better coach that flippantly saying, I don't read books and I don't do research, I already know enough about football, is just crazy, because there's so many other coaches that are going to beat you at that game. Plus, to be quite honest, like I said back to him in my deal, that if coaches are asking their players to give 110%, if they're not studying the game of football, they're not giving their team 110%. And so you really got to look back at yourself, I think, as a coach, if that's occurring. So before we get more into this, please subscribe to the channel. That really helps me out. I really appreciate it. So like, subscribe, all that good stuff with podcast or YouTube or whatever you've got there that you're listening to me on. Really appreciate it. So as a coach, you've got to ask yourself, how committed are you to this profession or to this volunteer role? And is that what you want to do? I know I kind of committed myself to going gung-ho because I basically hate to lose and I love coaching. So I don't want to lose. So I've dedicated myself to researching as much about football as I can. And now I write books and all of that. And I know most people won't do that. But you've got to decide, as a coach, am I just going to be a fun volunteer, or am I going to be a head coach? Do I really want to commit? And I think that's where, you've got to ask yourself is how far do you want to go? I think if you're a coach that just wants to have fun and not really commit, maybe you just be an assistant coach to some geek like me that, wants to really go crazy and do this and help them out. Because if you're just out there having fun and don't want to really commit that much time or effort, then you're really kind of doing a disservice for the team. And so you really want to pick that up a little bit if you're going to be a head coach. And that's what I would say to that. I mean, there's a lot of leagues that you can go to, like the YMCA, I-7. Those leagues are really kind of rec-y leagues where it's not very competitive. And so when you are starting to coach, look at the league you're going to get in. It may say rec, but I know several of the rec leagues I got in, like my current one, they're highly competitive and they've got great coaches there. And the parents in those leagues do not like to lose. And so it's a little bit more competitive than it is rec-y. And so you've got to decide, hey, I'm going to go to this level or I'm not. So I think that's a big deal. Everybody talks about, wanting to have their players become elite and really, work them out and everything and bring up all these players. Well, I find it interesting that a lot of times when we talk about our players giving 110%, we may not be doing that. And I know I've caught myself the last couple of seasons as I've gotten older, maybe not giving it the 110% that I should have. And I've really had to look at, do I want to be an OC and DC or a head coach anymore? Because I really just don't think I want to give that much effort. And I have decided over the last several years that I really just want to coach the offensive line. I don't really want the responsibility of having to worry about being an offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator. I've already coached 25 plus seasons, almost 30 seasons really. And I've given and had a great time doing it. I played for 10 years. And now as I'm getting older, I just want to be able to have more fun with my wife on the weekends and during the weeks and just go help out the offensive line. I've got enough time to dedicate to that and let somebody else worry and take those responsibilities. And so that's what I've decided to do because that's the time commitment that I'm willing to give as a volunteer now. And I think that's what a lot of coaches need to ask themselves is where are they at in that process? And really, like in today's environment, there's so many opportunities to get better and to continuously get better. Because if you don't get better and you continuously get better, you just kind of stagnate because other people are getting, other coaches are studying and researching and reading books if you're not. And so Google it, man. There is so much on Google that you can learn so much so quickly and study. And it's really not a whole lot of effort to find it. When I started this little research get better thing back in 2007, it was kind of tough to find stuff on the internet. Now you can Google it and find everything. There's so many websites like mine and others. There's social media. There's so many Facebook groups. I've really gotten in here lately to be on Twitter. There's a ton of high school coaches and college coaches on Twitter. That's gotten to be a lot of fun for me. YouTube is an amazing resource. Used to you have to go to clinics to find all these drills and how to do this, how to do that. YouTube has just about everything you could imagine out there. A lot of clinics are put. I put our KYA coaching clinic out there, and you can see a lot of clinic videos out there. Also, there's coaching clinics websites, and there's coaching clinics that you go to on site. There's high school coaching clinics that you can go to. I know our league in Denver had set those up where we could go over to the high school. They put on a clinic for our coaches there. Their football forums. I think there's 3 or 4 really big football forums out there that you can look at. The other coaches on your staff or coaches that are maybe outside your district or state that are doing something, share information. You can go to those. Your college. Colleges will really help out high school coaches. You can attend their practices and things. Look, Amazon, eBay, books, thrift books. If you're looking for these old football books, which I really get into because they have a lot of great information in there. You can look at those. Championship Productions, Coaching Clinic Publishing. There's just a ton. There's the global library system where you can check out books from libraries all around the world, which is crazy cool. I know here at TCU, you can donate to the library and you'll get one of their library cards like a student and check things out. I know TCU has a great football library. I haven't done that yet because I've been able to find most of the stuff I wanted, and I want it for my own copy so I can mark it up. There's Scribd, which has a bunch of PDF playbooks out there. There's also a website, I think an X&O website or something he's got like a library of football playbooks that he's gathered over the years. There's the Google PDF bulk search, bulk search on PDFs. It's crazy how much information is out there that you can get, that there's really no reason for coaches to say, I don't read or I don't do research or I'm not going to do schemes. I'm not going to draw up plays. I'm not going to do any of this for their team. There's just no real reason for that not to be occurring there, other than what Caesar and Reed have said in their youth football books. And I've read a few other books over the years that talk about really you can beat the majority of coaches because they're lazy and are not going to put in the effort. And so I hate to say that, but it's kind of come true that a lot of coaches that you probably beat have just been too lazy to put in the 110% effort. And if you're putting in your 110% and they're putting in their 80%, then, effort over talent sometimes can win that. But yeah, I just had to talk about that today on the podcast here because I thought it was interesting that the high school coaches were talking about this 110% effort, and they're seeing that their staff or friends are not doing it. and I'm seeing it here in the youth football, which I kind of understand because we're volunteers and we're not getting paid. So, there's that. But at the high school level, you've chosen that as a profession. So I would think that those guys are going to really do their deal. But I think that gets back to that 80-20 rule, which is what there was another tweet about that this week about moving your team to be elite players. And I think that's the 80-20 rule for staff too. You've got 80% of the staff that are just average and about 10% that are below average. And then you've got elite coaches. And those elite coaches are the ones that are probably in the playoffs quite a bit. I'm sure they're studying you and what you do, or you're one of those coaches that studies and read books. I mean, it just boggles my mind that I would hear somebody tell me I don't read books. If it's not on one page, I'm not going to look at it. Or it's crazy that people would say that in today's environment. But I've always been a book reader, so maybe that's me and maybe that's my bias. And if it is, then you've let me rant and rage about not researching and not giving 110% effort to your team as a coach when you ask that of your players. And so that's all I've got. Hopefully you're one of the coaches that are giving 110%. I know I try to do that as much as I can as a volunteer with my career, but I know if I was a paid professional, I would be going for it 110%. So this is Coach Parker with Coach Parker's Coaching Youth Football Tips and Talk podcast. Thanks for joining me today. Would love to hear your comments about this below if you get a chance. And as always, play for fun and winning is funner. This is Coach Parker, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.